Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us here at our Conroy Center for our July open mic night. Catering this evening is provided by Dalo, and by that I mean it's the leftovers from when Dalo was here Tuesday, but there's food and drink right outside that door. Delighted to have a full room tonight. This is amazing. We have 4 folks who have signed up to participate in our open mic night who will be our opening readers tonight. And then that will lead us to the special feature reading by the most famous author to appear at the Conroy Center this week so far, Rebecca Thompson, multi-award winning author Rebecca Thompson, who will close out our show tonight. And then we will have some time for questions with Rebecca and also the sale of many, many books, I am sure. So, our opening reader this evening, Deborah Martin. Who is Deborah Martin? What? Big hand for Deborah Martin. Yes. Now, Deborah, is this your first time? This is not your first time to be with us, but is this your first time to read at open mic?
Actually, this is my first time reading to grown people. I've been a media specialist for 41 and a half years. I'm retired, so I'm very comfortable reading to my students. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy my story. It's called Who Let the Dog in Grandma's House? And I'm a mother of 4 sons, a grandmother of 5 grandsons. And so this story is based on 2 of my grandsons, Pharaoh and Aiden, and Grandma Cookie. And so we are the characters in this story. The story, The Little Gingerbread Dog, is based on Billie Jean, my grandson's Karen Terrier, who is terribly cute but horribly wild. And who let the dog in Grandma's house? The little gingerbread dog once again plans to run and play, not outside, not at school, but this time inside Grandma's house. There's a little dog the color of gingerbread who is terribly cute but horribly wild. When Grandma decides to have a party, family, friends, and neighbors are all invited. But by the look on Grandma's face, there won't be any trace of you-know-who. Grandma worked all night long like she was cleaning up after a storm. The house looks great with everything neatly in place. Brother and I had to search under the chairs, but couldn't find anything there, not even a single hair. So we sat down on the couch, quiet as a mouse, for Grandma has rules, just like at school, and today is not the day to run and play, not in Grandma's house. Dressed to impress, Grandma eagerly awaits the arrival of her guests. Delicious smells fill the air, but we must sit and wait until it's time to serve the cake. What if my tummy starts to rumble? Would I then be in trouble if I dare get out of my chair? Each time the doorbell rings, Grandma welcomes someone in, but guess who's hidden out of sight, so not to cause a fright? First, Uncle Wayne, calling Grandma by her childhood name, loudly bangs his cane, shaking all the window panes. Mrs. Flynn, though rather slim, wears a hat brim so wide she can barely get inside. Mr. Lee, who cannot see, wears thick eyeglasses upside down on the top of his head. Cousin Seal, in really high heels, holds tightly to the wall, trying desperately not to fall. Then Dr. Paul, who is rather large, has a jacket so small he can hardly button it at all. And Miss Briggs almost loses her wig, simply because it's way too big. As for Brother and me, we're dressed to the nines, wearing our new neckties. Finally, Grandma announces, family, friends, and neighbors, please come and join me at the table. Now, just when the fun begins, Cousin Seal in really high heels takes a nosedive straight into Grandma's cake. Icing and cake splatter everywhere, on the ceiling, the floor, the chairs, the walls, and in everyone's hair. Mr. Lee, who cannot see, decides it's time to leave, but in his haste, he opens the wrong door. And the little gingerbread dog, who is terribly cute but horribly wild, bulks right inside. At first, Grandma stands perfectly still, then with a frown turns slowly around to ask, "Who let the dog in Grandma's house?" Family, friends, and neighbors, backing away from the table, rush quickly to the living room where no one breathes a single word. Just seeing the look on Grandma's face, the little gingerbread dog knew it was time to plan his escape. So he jumps on Miss Briggs' chair, causing her wig to fly through the air. Of course, Miss Briggs snatches back her wig, but the little dog thinks she now wants to play. So he runs and hides under Uncle Wayne's chair. Uncle Wayne tightly holds his cane, trying not to fall, but the cane bounces out of his hand and hits the wall, barely missing Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul leaps to his feet, and a jacket so small his buttons explode, stinging Mr. Lee on the tip of his nose. Mr. Lee, who cannot see, thinks the buttons are bumblebees. So he slaps his head, causing his eyeglasses to fall on Mrs. Flynn's wide brim. Mrs. Flynn thinks the glasses might be a snake, so she rushes out of the room looking for a broom. Seeing all that commotion, the little gingerbread dog decides it's time to put his second plan in motion. When things finally settle down, the little dog is nowhere to be found. The house is a total mess, to say nothing about the condition of Grandma's guest. Will everyone go home since the cake was ruined? As Mrs. Flynn heads to the powder room, she begins to yell for quite a long spell. Wonder if she slipped on the floor trying to get her hat through the door. So I leave my seat to go and peek. I see paper everywhere, from the ceiling to the floor, and there on the middle of the rug is something that looks like a huge white bug. But Grandma marches right on in, determined not to let her party end. In the middle of the floor, that huge white bug starts crawling slowly towards the door. With one full sweep, Grandma lifts that bug right off its feet, while her guests watch in fright to hear a bug barking with all its might. Now, the little gingerbread dog, who is terribly cute but horribly wild, had put everyone to the test. But Grandma, who always knows best, kindly says, "It's time for this little dog to take a rest." So that's just what he did under Grandma's chair, with traces of icing still stuck in his hair. And in his dreams, the little gingerbread dog thought he heard Grandma say, "Sorry about the cake, but it's never too late for ice cream." Thank you. And this was my third story that I've written about the little gingerbread dog.
Wonderful, Deborah. I love how all the characters have traits that rhyme with their names, too. So sweet. So why isn't that a book yet?
I haven't published.
Yeah. Want to talk about that sometime?
I sure would.
Okay. I would welcome that conversation. But right now we have to welcome Elizabeth Robin, because it's your turn.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Switching up. This is poetry. But first, I want to congratulate Rebecca Thompson, because winning the Ann Head Literary Prize is a very cool thing to have done. But also to be your age and to have 2 books of your own is redonkulous. That's just great. But I also like to speak to other young people out there who are writing and don't win anything, because you too have a voice that needs to be heard, and I hope you keep writing. I have won only one writing thing, and I won that when I was 67 years old. So keep writing. At some point, you'll mature. This is a poem inspired by M.C. Escher. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. If you're not, look him up because he's fun. And he does these things that are called tessellations. And the one that I'm inspired by in this poem is one where the birds are flying in the sky, and then it ends up being fish in the water. And it's called Sky and Water. Bird watching, after M.C. Escher's Sky and Water. A cardinal greets me every morning, a dependable pal. He pecks along the railing, blazing bright red. Act 1. The anhinga keeps a polite distance, spreads her wings out, stands at attention, outside but facing my bedroom window as if to hold off intruders or await an invitation to stop by for drinks. The gray heron, slim elegance but turkey-sized, glides across the lagoon, the grand entrance, his swoop-swishing style shows stealing, while the snowy egret stalks for snacks. Dipfishes, frogs, shrimp, crayfish, worms, circling the water's edge. The ibis pecks snails and periwinkles from reed stems. Birds put on an all-day show, scenes set to music, trills and caws and whoops, and the drums, taps, knocks of red-headed tuxedo, the woody woodpecker in real feathers. A dozen wood storks dot trees around lagoon rims, feathered, elegant crystal blossoms, breakfast feast for them and me. The boat-tailed grackle flits about marina tables, consummate opportunist. Perhaps some pesky cafe intruder, pecking crumbs, went tessellating in M.C. Escher's brain, birds tumbling from the sky into stylish triangles or changing to fish as they move from sky to water. A full 5-act play, bird symphonies day and night, perhaps sparked the illusion that creatures merge one into the other or alter mid-flight. No image, solid, immutable, anything can change in the right dimension. When the earth is flat, manipulation's so easy. Staircases move up and down and around. Birds become fish, fish, lizards, angels, devils. The line is imagination, a 3-dimensional perspective. It's all about how we look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I love that one. I've not heard that one before. New? Help me with the verb here. Snowy egret, was it snaps for snacks? Is that it? I like that. I like that a lot. I like the whole poem. It seems timely in its way, too. Well, yeah. Yes.
I'm always talking about something else.
Yes, as poets so often do. Thank you. Robin has come from the faraway land of Hilton Head Island to join us this evening. So I feel as though we could extrapolate something like saying the farther the distance you have to travel to be here at open mic night, the higher quality of work we should expect from you. Does that seem like a fair?
I don't know. It took me 40 minutes to get from his place at the marina to over the bridge.
Time and distance collectively, I think, sort of elevates our expectations, and you've certainly delivered on that.
I hope I didn't.
Yes. So now I want to introduce a poet who lives just up the street, Brad Beck, who will be reading for us tonight. Come on, Brad. Welcome, please. Welcome.
Yeah, since I live 2 blocks away, I hope expectations are adequately, proportionately low, and that I can deliver. It's helped my whole career, that philosophy, actually. Keep expectations low and then deliver. You never disappoint. I have just a short story about a local captivating person, a real person. I think this is a person that helps make up the rich culture of the Low Country, and I wanted to sort of capture his story. Okay, it's called Ain't Fussin'. I always greet Mr. Dempsey with a "How you doing, Mr. Dempsey?" "Ain't fussin'" is often his reply. It's my favorite. It's the most authentic, heartfelt response I've ever gotten from that common, casual greeting. The humility and grounding in his greeting became reality right there and then with his generous donations to the Second Helping's mission of distributing food to those in need. The food pickup stop at Mr. Dempsey's farm on St. Helena Island for the morning's Second Helping route was my favorite. Mr. Dempsey himself supervised our pickup of squash, peppers, peaches, strawberries, sweet corn, beets, collards, and cantaloupes, anything in season. We've loaded up to 80 cantaloupes at one pickup. A lot of work. Big and round, stout, thinning gray hair to match his scraggly but quite distinguishing beard. He makes a waddling, slow walk to the vegetable cooler that's actually the back of an old refrigerated truck. It obviously hasn't moved for probably decades, but it's still working, and so is the farm and its popular roadside stand. An assortment of banded, rusty farm implements sit around the barnyard close to active, well-used equipment: tractors, planters, sprayers, trucks. 100-year-old live oak trees dripping with Spanish moss add shade and another chapter to the living history I feel there. The Dempseys have farmed this land since the 1930s, and Mr. Dempsey's son is next in line. The Dempsey family history on St. Helena Island can be traced back to the 1600s. Mr. Dempsey told me that his grandfather fought in one of the first Civil War battles that took place a few miles from the farm. In addition to his age and a life of hard work on his farm, part of his labored walk is due to a leg brace from his left ankle to just below his knee. It's the kind of brace you might see in a museum of orthopedic devices: worn leather padding with belt-like buckles connected to the metal braces running up both sides of the calf. I don't know what caused him to have to wear the brace, but one time he told me how the brace saved his life. As a kid, I spent some of my most memorable summers on my grandparents' farm. I was in the 3rd grade when he taught me to drive the International Farmall tractor that my grandpa used to work ground, plant, cultivate, harvest, bale hay, pull stumps out, and everything else that needed to be done on the farm. I was admiring the old rusty Farmall tractor, an antique now, that sat in the middle of the barnyard like a monument to the farm's history. It seemed to be synchronized in age and pride with the surrounding majestic live oaks. Here's a picture of the tractor. So we started talking about tractors when he pointed to a well-worn John Deere tractor close by that was hooked up to a disc ready to head to the field. Now, a disc is an implement used to break up the ground in preparation for planting. The disc, appropriately named, has several rows of large, heavy metal discs that knife through the soil, breaking up clods and packed soil. Think of rows of giant metal dinner plates turned vertically on sharp edges. I was run over by that tractor one time, Mr. Dempsey told me nonchalantly as we were looking at the John Deere. Broke my femur, couple ribs. Would have killed me if not for this brace, he said as he pointed out scars still prominent on his right calf. And he shared how he had held his femur bone with his hand as it was sticking out of his leg at the scene of the accident. The tractor tire ran over him first. Bad enough, but the disc would have then finished him off. The disc first hit his metal leg brace that was strong enough to cause the implement to bump up slightly, likely saving his life. Farming is hard work and a risky business, especially given the wide range of crops Mr. Dempsey grows. Add into the business a robust retail farm stand and the labor required to keep it all going. The breadth and challenges of Mr. Dempsey could truly fuss about, for good reasons every day, make me embarrassed at my own whining over the mostly small stuff problems in my life. I always drive away from that pickup stop with a truck full of produce, warm heart, and less fussing.
That was wonderful, Pat.
Thank you. Above expectations.
Yes. Even if I hadn't set the bar so low, it still would have been incredible. I love that. That should be in publication.
I have to move away now.
You do. You're no longer allowed to live within 2 blocks if you're going to write that well. That's the rule. That's a really solid profile. It's visual, it's immersive. That should be in print. If you're not already pursuing that, please do. And I can talk to you about some options for that too. All right. Our final reader for the open mic portion, unless I've left anybody off the list who's suddenly feeling brave and wants to sign up. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Wait, was that a hand raised? Are you sure? I feel like it was. All right. So let's welcome Chuck Atkins, first-time reader with us this evening. Thank you for being here.
I took a little special project on myself toward the end of the year last year. I've been writing a verse here and there over the years, and they existed in scraps of paper, backs of napkins, in one file folder, in one box or another. So I decided, I think I'll pull them together, since my runway is not short in life. I'll pull them together at this stage, and actually I'll get a local printer, and I'll print 30 copies and give some to my family and a couple of very special friends. So that's the origin of Life in Reverse, along with an essay in here about war. I'm going to read a poem, In the Face of Others. Glimpse your reality in the face of others. No longer hear the clinging sound of youthful axe. Memory of pouring rain chilling old fears. Dancers glide across the floor, no longer glance to smile at me. Another day chastened by mirrors. Those long ago voices to awake the final song with music, faint and out of tune. The mystery of memory, solving crimes of youth, framing truth with desire to remake the past. Adon the disguise of age, cloth tattered by time's assault. No seamstress found to knit and sew. I sip the wine of forgetting and watch the glass go empty. No thirst for more. Every night more ungentle than the last. To await the moon to fade until the day, as sunlight seeks the truth that darkness cloaked. Remember standing at the window, arms propped on metal sill, as one by one they pass me by, and dash into the smiles and cheers until the room is empty of all but one. It's not exactly a poem to bring you up tonight. So.
Thank you, Chuck. What's the title of the book?
Life in Reverse.
Reverse. I like
Just
that.
looking back
Yes.
on life.
Reflective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where is that available for folks who might be interested?
I've got a few extra copies I'll be happy to give to people. It's not published, and it's not priced, and it's not copywritten.
It's a labor of love. Nothing wrong with
I have a
that.
few pictures in here.
Yes.
People. There's a story. There's a 15-page essay also here.
Okay.
It's the genesis for a lot of the thought that goes into some of the poems.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that tonight. I hope you'll come back and take part in open mic again.
Thank you.
So that brings us, folks, to our featured reader this evening, Rebecca Thompson. Rebecca is a recent graduate of Beaufort High School, where she was ranked in the top 10 of her class and was awarded the prestigious and impressive Junior ROTC Scholarship. She'll begin her studies this fall at the University of South Carolina Honors College in Columbia. During the COVID pandemic, Rebecca set out to write and publish her first book, as so many people thought they would, but she actually did it. The fantasy novel, The Girl of the Tree. She followed that with its sequel, Seeking the Truth, both available wherever fine books are sold, which tonight will be this table right over here. after our reading. Rebecca, as a short story writer, Rebecca has been honored as the winner of the 5th annual Ann Head Literary Prize earlier this year, an award named in honor of Pat Conroy's first creative writing teacher and writing mentor. We also happen to have with us tonight the 4th annual winner of the Ann Head Literary Prize, Rebecca's cousin, Mackenzie. So we have 2 of our 5 winners with us this evening, which is all the more special. Were that not enough, as a poet, Rebecca was also selected as a winner of the Beaufort County School District's Creative Writing Competition, honoring the importance of our school libraries. So tonight we get to host and also congratulate Rebecca as our featured writer in 3 different genres, as novelist, as short story writer, and as poet. So please join me in welcoming Rebecca Thompson. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Thompson. I'm a recent Beaufort High graduate, future USD Honors College student, and a published author. Tonight, I'll be reading my poem, Our Library, which won the Why I Love My Library Poetry Contest for Beaufort County Schools, and I'll also be reading my short story, The Canary Rain Boots, which won this year's Ann Head Literary Prize. However, before I begin, I would like to thank everyone who came tonight. Listening to you guys read, I definitely realized I have a lot to learn about writing. I'm excited to continue my journey, and I'm glad I got to hear y'all read tonight. I would also like to thank my friends and family who are here. Either they're watching online or in person. I wouldn't be here today without your support. Thank you. First, I'm going to read Our Library. My library, our library. It is more than just books. It is more than just novels. Look between the feathered pages of ivory, and new worlds will you find, worlds filled with rebels. My library, our library. We are the rebels, the readers, the ones who don't take no for an answer. The world's begging, pleading to escape. Will we let them? Oh yes, and not silently. Because between the light words, casual talk, and playful banter, live messages of unanswerable truth. Books are words, words are thoughts, thoughts are action, and action starts with the youth. So leave the doors open, unfurl the pages that speak silently, and let the light in. Don't close the door to my library, our library. So the poem Our Library was inspired by the recent push to ban books in Beaufort County schools. I just wanted to highlight the importance of our libraries and how they provide students with a way to discover new worlds. If a student picks up the right book, it will inspire them to pursue amazing things in life. Just like many of the fantasy novels I read in elementary and middle school inspired me to write my own. Now I'm going to read my short story, The Canary Rain Boots. I've entered the Ann Head Literary Contest for the past 4 years, sculpting and writing short stories across all sorts of genres. I didn't win the first 3 years, but I did receive amazing personalized feedback. It was able to help me improve my writing and grow more confident each upcoming year. And this year, I combined my personal experience with a bit of fiction to write The Canary Rain Boots. This one's a bit of a long one, so please stay with me. Wendell stood perched at his sturdy oak desk, listening to the droplets of rain patter against the adjacent window. He was working on his calculus homework, or as he always called it, his advanced placement calculus homework. He glanced up at the Harvard poster perfectly centered above his desk before returning to his trigonometry problem, hoping to stare the sloping lines into submission. He snatched his TI-84 Plus from his desk, ignoring the swoosh of papers as they fluttered haphazardly to the ground, and quickly typed in numbers, his fingers barely able to keep up with his whirring mind. Cosine 27 equals, he murmured thoughtfully, and furrowed his eyebrows so they formed a gentle crease. Error, he grumbled, rolling his eyes with aggravation and dropping the calculator onto his desk. He stormed away, running his fingers through his tousled hair. When he looked up, he came face to face with his bulletin board. His mom had hung it up a few years ago, encouraging him to fill it with pictures of school dances, hangouts with friends, and other memories. Instead, it was decorated, no, covered, in awards and certificates of all types. His eyes roamed across the flashy letters. Most valuable player for football, team captain for lacrosse, president of National Honor Society, concertmaster for orchestra, 2,800 ELO and chess club, and founder of his school's badminton team. He looked at his letters of thanks from the community, which he served better than the birdies at badminton practice. Finally, his eyes landed on his prized possession, his Harvard University pennant. All of Wendell's hard work was for one goal, and one goal only, to attend the prestigious Harvard University. Ever since he was placed in his elementary school's gifted program, he had always set high expectations for himself. And what better culmination of his hard work than Harvard University? However, at this rate, the infamous advanced placement calculus is going to be the death of his dreams. He gritted his teeth and swiveled away from the bulletin board, stalking back to his desk, only to stop in front of his window and lean against the sill. The rain droplets were barreling from the sky now, illuminated by the occasional flash of lightning. They seemed to reflect his current stormy mood. Wendell used to love the rain. He and his mother would always make time to go outside, pulling on their matching rain boots and sprinting out the door. They played games for countless hours, whether it was seeing who could make the biggest splashes or catching the rain in their mouths. Now he was too busy to even look out the window. He grabbed a handful of the heavy curtains, prepared to yank them shut, before a bright flash of color caught his eye. His fingers absent-mindedly released the fabric as he leaned closer to the foggy pane, like an intrigued kitten sneaking up on a new toy. The flash of color was bright yellow, no canary yellow, and belonged to a pair of oversized rain boots. The oversized rain boots belonged to a pair of long, lithe legs that were held up by a drenched girl who seemed to be Wendell's age. She was dripping with sparkling water, occasionally shaking it off like a wet dog, yet the smile on her face would have never given away her discomfort. She leaped through puddles, spinning in the slippery road, and cupping her hands to catch the rain. Wendell stared in disbelief. Who was this girl? Why was she in the rain? He shivered. Despite the humid Louisiana air, each raindrop was still a small spear of cold. Yet he couldn't tear his eyes away. She seemed so happy. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she wiped it away. She tilted her head to the sky and lifted her hands as if praying to the rain gods. Wendell blinked. He ripped the curtain closed in frustration and swiveled back to his homework. Snatching up the papers he had knocked to the floor earlier and crumpling them slightly, he smacked them down on his desk. Cosine, he started again, glaring at the impossible trigonometry. However, the window pulled him away from his chair like a magnet charms a paperclip. It was almost irresistible. His soft foot tapped against the hardwood floor to an invisible rhythm as he imagined them in step with the canary yellow rain boots. His eyes closed tightly as if he were protecting himself from the chilly rain before imagining the girl wiping the water from his forehead. Together they looked up at the sky, and Wendell let out a laugh with wild abandon. "No!" he shouted. He closed his eyes and rubbed out a crease that had formed between his eyebrows. The girl, the rain, it could wait. He needed to focus on what mattered, his future. Wendell failed his calculus test. He got a B. He crumbled the results into a ball, tossing it into his bedroom wastebasket. This exam was definitely not fridge-worthy. Harvard won't care about a B on a single calculus test, his mom had tried to reassure him, surprising him with a trip to the local frozen yogurt shop, and even buying him a Harvard sweatshirt. Advanced placement calculus test, Wendell emphasized as he pushed a lone chocolate chip through the melted ocean of strawberry yogurt. Now he was hidden in his room with his math textbook thrown open and his head buried in the tangled swoops and harsh angles of trigonometry. He recited definitions, scribbled down calculations, and reset his TI 84+ for good measure. His phone buzzed on the table. "Going out for dinner. Anyone want to join?" read the text from his friend Mark in their obnoxious 10-person group chat. His phone buzzed again and again as everyone typed out a response, eagerly accepting the invitation. Wendell opened the app and let his thumbs hover over the keyboard. He wanted to go. He really did. But Harvard wasn't in the dark, greasy booth at McDonald's. Harvard was in the crisp pages of his textbook. Sighing, he composed his infamous response. "Sorry, busy with homework." His phone instantly became a disturbed beehive. "Dude, again?" asked Mark, adding a frowning emoji for good measure. Wendell set his phone to Do Not Disturb and tossed it onto his bed, listening to the muffled thump when it settled in his sheets. Sighing, he returned to studying with renewed energy, tracing the tiny typed letters with his finger. Tap, 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 rat-a-tap. Wendell glanced at his window. The famous gloomy Louisiana weather never disappointed. Rat-a-tat, tap, tap. Gray popcorn clouds burst with rain, letting out a waterfall of dancing droplets. They mercilessly attacked his house, throwing themselves wildly against each asphalt shingle. Wendell scrunched his shoulders, trying to prevent the mesmerizing rhythm from worming their way into his head, twisting his practiced focus into a whirlwind of distracting thoughts. Did I sign up for the servicing in National Honor Society? Need to fix my opening move for chess. I have lacrosse practice and orchestra this Thursday. Which should I go to? Do you think she's outside? His shoulders fell. The girl in the rain boots. Would she be out there in the rain? Would she be trying to dodge the raindrops even though everyone knew it was impossible? Wendell ordered his body to stay in his chair and his eyes to stay focused on his textbook, yet they both refused. He grumbled and stood, sidling closer to the window and dropping his forehead against the thin glass pane. He repeated the motion, hitting his head rhythmically. Sounds like triplets, he thought, before finally glancing outside. He immediately pushed himself away from the window, storming back to his desk. I need to study, he muttered. Yet the canary yellow that had blinded him for that brief moment had other plans. The girl was outside again. She was wearing a blue and white dotted raincoat that floated around her as she splashed the puddles, laughing jubilantly. She was beautiful, and it made him jealous. He wanted to be out there. He wanted to enjoy the rain. Not that, he at least wanted to eat dinner with his friends. Wendell slumped to the floor, pulling his calculator down with him. He tucked his legs close and placed his chin on his knees. Tapping random buttons, listening to the singular clicking, he wondered what her name was and what school she attended. He wondered if she was applying to college or if she was even a senior. He wondered how she had time to relax and have fun. Wendell stared at his TI-84 Plus. He'd managed to spell out Harvard with the alpha function. Watching the cursor blink steadily at the end of the word, he pressed the enter key. It instantly spit out an answer. 0. He rolled his eyes, huffing with annoyance. He should have known by now that his calculator never had the answer. Standing up, he closed his eyes and pulled the drapes closed. Maybe he'd introduce himself next time when he had a spare moment. Next time. Wendell was stooped at his desk again, scribbling notes and calculations in his college-lined notebook. They were scrambled and would have looked like crazed nonsense to anyone else, but to him, they were perfect. His advanced placement calculus was finally starting to make sense. His fingers excitedly danced across the buttons of his calculator. Harvard was in their reach once again, until suddenly they screeched to a halt. What in the world, he thought, reading and rereading one of his problems? He began to panic. The math that had come so easily had blown away in the breeze like a plastic bag caught in traffic. Not to mention rain was dripping from the sky like droplets from a leaky faucet. It tapped ruthlessly on the window pane, seemingly teasing him in his incompetence. Can't even do a simple calculus problem, it taunted. Wendell glared at the river running down the window pane. It dove and spun and twisted in small whirls, and before he knew it, he was lost in its magic torrent. It could have been minutes or hours when he realized that the clouds had parted and the sun was shining, reflecting off the puddles and projecting a shimmering light. It was an unspeakably beautiful day outside. He glanced back and forth between his homework and the sparkling outdoors. Back and forth, back and forth. Wendell sucked in a sharp breath. Was he really going to choose a puddle over a world-renowned university? He shook his head. That would make less sense than his calculus problem. Yet the girl in the canary rain boots would be outside. She would be jumping in the puddles, splashing recklessly but happily, just as he had with his mom when he was younger. He imagined joining her, taking her hands and spinning her around. Together they would spend the day racing leaf boats down the small river that rushed into the gutter, or save lost worms who had ventured from the moist ground, or paint self-portraits of mud, or— Wendell steeled his mind and heart. Today was the day. He would speak to the girl. He turned away from his desk and marched to the window. Wendell cautiously peered outside, expecting to be blinded by the radiant yellow of her rain boots. The road was empty, save for a few unsplashed puddles. Where was she, thought Wendell, squinting his eyes, trying to spot her through the soaked window, but he couldn't find her, no matter how hard he looked. She was always out there, every time it rained. Wendell shrugged it off. She probably had a dentist appointment, or was out with friends. He returned to his homework, sighing softly. Angle A was 52 degrees. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and a message stung like 1,000 bees. Did y'all know? Mark had sent a message with a link to the local news' webpage attached below. Wendell did not know. He clicked on the link, and when the website loaded, he was hit with a bright image of canary yellow. Before him was a girl, caught in mid-laugh as she stood in the rain wearing her oversized raincoat, without a care in the world. His heart skipped a beat before it dropped into a chasm of dread. 17-year-old teen passes from terminal illness. She was brighter than a star, says parents. He let the phone fall to the table, then he picked it back up. Wendell read the rest of the article with a desperate hunger. She had attended his high school, participating in theater, a reading group with elementary schoolers, and even National Honor Society. She planned to attend college and hoped to change the world. Everyone called her a beacon of life and hope, never letting her illness overcome her. Wendell held his stomach, trying to quench the pain with his palm. He'd meant to talk to her, to say hello, but she was gone. A sudden whirl of emotions attacked his chest and built up into a massive bubble of pain, ready to burst like the clouds had done earlier. He couldn't cry. He needed to focus on his homework. He needed to get into Harvard. It was his future. He needed to get into Harvard. It was his future. He needed to get into Harvard. It was his future, he whispered, slowly closing the cover to his textbook. Future, he repeated, slightly warmer, slightly louder. Future, he exclaimed, pushing his chair away from his desk. It teetered on its legs, but Wendell caught it before it fell. He leaped onto his bed, sliding across like a regular James Bond. He ran from his bedroom, swinging around the corner and startling his mom, who was carrying a laundry basket piled with clean clothes. They sailed to the ground, and his mom grumbled, "All that intelligence, yet you have no common sense," she called after him. "I do now," replied Wendell, laughing gleefully. He skidded to a stop by the front door and whipped out his phone. He opened the group chat, and his fingers scrambled to type a message. "Want to grab dinner?" he texted. The bees curiously ventured from the hive. "Yes," exclaimed Mark in all caps with a few excited emojis. Wendell grinned and shoved his phone back into his pocket. He struggled to pull on a pair of old, dusty rain boots that he swore were 2 sizes too small, and threw open the door. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and the puddles pooled on the road shimmered invitingly. Wendell traipsed through the dewy grass, feeling the droplets of water splash against his legs as he embraced the pain aching dully in his heart. He had never met the girl, but still felt as if he knew her. He understood her happiness and lightness. He felt free. From that moment on, he vowed to honor her memory and truly live in the moment. Wendell felt a comforting hand on his shoulder and turned to find his mom smiling softly next to him. He laughed and pulled her into the road, kicking up water with the toes of his boots. Harvard was his future, but his present was now. So that was my short story. So if anyone has any questions about my poem or my short story, you can ask. If no one has any questions, then I would like to ask you to stay after and consider purchasing some of my novels for my Girl of the Tree series. I also have a QR code available if anyone would like to look at my Christmas short story collection that I co-published with 2 other teen authors. But that's about it. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Why did you choose your title for your 2 novels?
The 2 novels. So they do follow, the main character is the Girl of the Tree. She struggles with her identity throughout the novel. She's grown up with humans, but she really lives with the elves. So it's like an identity crisis. So going with the Girl of the Tree shows that throughout all that, she kind of learns where she's from and who she is. So that is her identity, and throughout the book, she's trying to discover who she is. Yes. What else? Thank you. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I want to ask you where you get your inspiration for your writing. Where do you find ideas and inspiration? Because it takes a lot of work to do what you're doing too.
Yes, that's a difficult question. Kind of get my experience from my own personal life. Definitely with the short story. I've grown up. I was in a gifted and talented program ever since elementary school, and it definitely puts a lot of pressure growing up to always succeed. So that was kind of part of the story. I based it off me and my friends and kind of what we struggle with. We all take AP classes in high school, and just that constant feeling that you have to do well. So it's very personal to me. With the short stories as well, that kind of identity crisis. That kind of didn't apply to me as much, but she also struggles with expressing herself and building up that confidence which was something I struggled with throughout high school. You wouldn't have recognized me now freshman year. I didn't talk to anybody, so quiet. And now I'm up here reading you guys, which is still very scary. My hands are shaking right now. But I usually get most of my inspiration from my own personal life and my friends' lives around me. Most of my poetry comes from my friends' lives and like kind of basing that, turning that into a poem. So yes.
I just want to say one thing about your poem as you were reading it. I think it would be great song lyrics. I think you should send it to Taylor Swift.
Yes, definitely.
Really, I think it could be a song. You might want to try that yourself.
I think so. That would be great.
Rebecca, did you know you were writing a story that would take more than one book? Was it always going to be a duology, or did that happen along the way?
That kind of happened along the way. It was supposed to be one book, but then I was talking to my brother about it. We were going on a walk around the neighborhood, and he's not a good reader. He didn't really like my series that much. He refused to read it at the beginning. But then he read it, and I think he really enjoyed it. And he kind of gave me some inspiration for the second one. He's like, well, what if you did this? What if this happened? He's like, what if this happened to that character? And I got all excited. And I was like, okay, we're turning this into 2 books. So that's how that kind of turned out. I think it's going to stay 2 books for now, but I have an idea for a prequel. I'm just not sure if I'm going to write it yet. But I absolutely love the world of the series, and I want to keep expanding on that. No, I'm like very awkward right now. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll have some books up here. I don't have, I published them through Amazon, so I had to order author copies. So they didn't all come in, so I only have 5 of each book up there. But if you'd like to purchase one, that would be great. Thank you.
I feel like buying 10 books is not a difficult ask for the room. So I hope you will consider supporting Rebecca this evening. And I certainly want to thank all of the writers who participated tonight and everybody who came out. We have a full room, which is very much unexpected this time of the year for an open mic night. So this is great. If you would like to come back to this very room on Saturday, we are hosting Joangela Edwins, who is the poet laureate of the PD region of South Carolina. She'll be here 5 p.m. doing a reading from her new book. She's also teaching a workshop for us Saturday afternoon called Mystifying the Familiar, and we still have a few spots open in that if anybody is interested. In the meantime, thank you all once again for being with us this evening. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to the camera crew over here for